Hey, this is Robert here at Goozy Fabrication. Hit that like and subscribe, leave some comments. Okay, I've got a great video for my DIY guys and gals working on your projects at home. What this video is about is I'm going to walk you through the steps of removing and replacing outer wheelhouses, upper trunk decks, and trunk pans. In case you're doing this at home on your vehicle, I'm going to give you the basics of how to get those things removed, some tips, tricks on how to get them installed professionally and cleanly and doing a really nice job on your project at home. Okay, so we're going to be getting this fuel lid door out of the way. We're saving the filler housing. And we're getting the remnant of the seal off. And what I'm doing now, this is called, well, I'm using a soapstone. You can use a marker, whatever you like. We're going to be making a rough cut. What a rough cut is getting the majority of the material out of the way so we can do our final disassembly of the body panels. It's going to make it a lot easier than trying to work up inside this wheelhouse, and easier is better. Left-hand side out of the way. And now we're going to come back and dress down the wells. We're going to straighten the flanges and get everything prepped to install the new outer wheel well housings. And we're just removing some of the remnant of the quarter panels. We never want to cut too much off at one time. I'd rather make a couple of cuts than cut too much off. Okay, now this is a trick. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now originally body chutes or an undercoating, sound deadener, whatever you like to call it, was applied to this car, probably at the factory or dealership. Okay, since the age of this car, that's gotten kind of hard and brittle. And I'm using an air hammer turned all the way down to its lowest setting, and it will just blow this stuff right off without damaging any of the metal. And if you just work slowly and patiently, you can have really good results. Now, this doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to use other methods, but this time it will, so we're going to take advantage of it. A needle scaler do the same, have the same results. Okay, now to address the rust, we're just going to use a wire wheel and finish off the inner wheel well housing. Then when we're done with all of this, we're going to, and the repair is finished, we're going to come back with an encapsulator and brush on. And we're going to get the rest of that outer wheel well housing off. Some more cleanup work. And that's coming along really nicely. It's cleaned up well. Okay, now what I'm doing here is I'm adding an extra stanchion to the frame brace because I'm going to have to remove this brace that you see here that was supporting the trunk and the rear of the car. And so we're going to get that out of the way right now. So we actually have 4 stanchions at the back of this car supporting it on the frame fixture. And you can see the vehicle didn't move in any way, so that's a really good sign. Now we're going to work on getting the rest of the trunk out of the way. And using a 7-inch cutoff wheel, we'll do a rough cut on that. Just working slowly and carefully. Don't want to have any mishaps with the grinder, with the cutoff wheel. And there it is. Okay, now we're going to be removing that last little bit of the front of the trunk upper floor. And we're separating it from the braces. After we have drilled out the resistance welds. Almost completely removed now. And this is the passenger side or right hand. And the white mark, that's where I want to get close with my, or just a reference while I'm using the cutoff wheel. Cut a straight line anyway, is what I'm trying to say. Now the traditional method is to drill out all of the resistance welds. And sometimes that's the only way. But there is also another way. If you're really careful and you use the air hammer correctly with a chisel type bit, you can work around the resistance weld and you will incredibly speed up the amount of time it takes to remove or separate body panels. And then you come back and usually there's just a little bit of material left and you can knock that off with a grinding disc. Takes a little bit of practice. Try it out sometime. See what you think. And prepping passenger side. So once we get the quarter panels put on this car, now this area that we're working on is going to be inaccessible. So any areas like that, we want to use a protective coating. Now this is POR 15. It's an encapsulator. It's formulated to go over light surface rust or semi-prepared areas. Perfect for this type of area. We always want to coat and protect it with something. If the customer requested POR 15, but if you can apply any number of different types of encapsulators, the main thing is to protect all of these areas and do the job right. So first up, we're going to be fitting the right hand outer wheel well. And we're going to have to do a little trimming. We're going to use the air nibbler to make short work of this. You've got to do it over a trash can or outside because this thing will leave really, really nasty little hook-shaped shards. Okay, we're going to get that thing lined up, clamped into place. Now we're going to be drilling holes through this outer wheel well, and we're going to be plug welding from the bottom side onto these mating surfaces. So we want to mark them out so we know where to drill. Now I'm going to set this thing up. I always like to use the resistance welder anywhere I can to really mimic the factory welds. So we're going to be setting that up right now. Now the resistance welder won't work through this EDP coat. So what we're going to do, we've marked these lines, and we're pretty close to there anyway. And we're going to remove a small amount of the EDP coat down to bare steel, and that's what's going to be required for making good continuity with the resistance welder. And we're going to have to do the outsides and the inside mating surfaces. And we're just using a little flap wheel here. And show you the shot of the mating surfaces. And they all need to be lined up correctly. So now I'm going to scuff this outer wheel well and apply a little bit of zinc weld. That's a weld through primer. Now the resistance welder won't work through the EDP coat, but it will work through the weld through primer. So that's what we're going to get a little bit of that on there. We don't want to just leave bare steel sandwiched between panels anywhere, because that'll be big problems later. We want to miss that boat. Okay, let's get this thing installed, or mocked into place, I should say. We're not going to be installing anything just yet, not finish welding anyway. We're going to be screwing all of the panels together and checking fitment, because it usually never goes according to plan. So we don't want to finish weld anything just yet. Okay, everything's looking pretty decent so far. Both sides. Okay, upper trunk panel. Here we go. And get that thing set into place. Now lift it up into position. And the way I'm going to set this up is I'm going to pre-punch all of these holes, get all my surfaces prepped. That way, I'm not just mocking this up and then I got to take it apart and then go back and re-prep everything. I could save a bunch of time and steps if I go ahead and do this first. I pretty much know where to punch these holes and where not to. And we're going to get it set into place. Okay, now this is going to be a pretty critical step, getting the correct height. Well, I'm a little bit ahead of myself. What I'm doing now is I'm pushing the front up into the correct position. And then we're going to double check the mounts to the frame height. And these collapsible jack stands there, yeah, they're I couldn't live without those. And we'll get a few screws into that, hold it into place. Everything looks nice and parallel. And there it is. Okay, now this is the critical area or part that I was telling you about. We want to measure, because this is going to be, these are the frame mounts themselves. We don't want one lower or higher than the other. And we're measuring off the frame fixture. We've got the same measurement on both sides. Good sign. And now for the lower trunk. Pre-punching our holes. And we're going to get that thing set into place. And I've already preset my jack stands there. Looking good. And so with these jack stands, we can level things out really easily. Sure beats trying to click up a traditional jack stand up and down. Yeah, that's no fun. Now that we've got everything flush and squared and centered and leveled, we put some set screws in there, hold it in place. That's where we're at.